Oh, hi, it's your old buddy Zoo, and me and my old buddy Stubbs are gonna tag team our top handhelds of 2024. So check it to wreck it, and let's begin as I take 5 and Stubbs takes 5, and maybe we'll get 10. Maybe there'll be some overlap. I don't know. I think some of the ones I like, he might like, but we'll see. So get your butt right in your chair, take a load off, watch this video. Hopefully it's not too long. Stubbs is editing it.
There it is.
I don't want to draw out the suspense. The 35XX SP is easily my handheld of the year.
But are you gonna tell us why?
No.
And I'm going to tell you why. From the moment this thing arrived, it was my go-to portable handheld. You got to sit in the lobby for 45 minutes during your kid's gymnastics class? SP. You got to go to the doctor's office. Put it in your pocket. You got to go on a family trip for the weekend, and maybe they're going to stare at you if you bring an entire handheld PC setup? SP. It's getting colder outside now. You know where this thing is all the time? Inside my jacket pocket. It's super portable. It plays up to and including PlayStation 1. And oh, by the way, it looks just like a Game Boy Advance SP. It's also cheap. These things go on sale sometimes for like $50, $60. So God forbid you chuck it across the room or it gets run over by a car. If you can salvage the SD cards, just buy another one. Stubborn Pixels, whatever your name is. Don't put this part in the video. This is me doing my voiceover. We can roll into the top-down footage later, okay? Now, we're going to talk later about another XX handheld on this list, so a quick rundown of the H700 line is in order. All of the XX handhelds this year, except that weird 35XX 2024 edition, which, let's just make that my worst handheld of 2024. Done. But all the regular XXs this year have the H700 chip. And while some people get mad about so many handhelds being pumped out with the same specs, it does allow for custom firmware devs to make software that, with just some minor tweaks, can be cross-compatible across, 8 different devices now? You got a couple great ones out there. You got MIUI, Newly, but for the SP, I went with MuOS. I think I did like 4 videos about MuOS this year, and that's because for me at least, MuOS was the killer app for my SP. I like Newly on the wider XX models, and MIUI is good on like the 35XX Plus, but something about MuOS and the SP just clicked with me. You couple an awesome custom firmware with an awesome handheld in an awesome form factor, and you end up with Zoo's handheld of the year. I didn't even wait to put it at the end. There's no suspense. Like I said before, it's easily the 35XX SP. Up next for me is the RP5. Now wait, Zoo, idiot. Didn't you just do a video about how you had problems with the RP5? Yeah, I did, and there are problems with it. But those problems don't mean it's not one of the best handhelds of the year. It's probably the best Android handheld of the year, arguably. We'll see. The thing that gets me with the RP5, it's not the strongest handheld out there, right? It's not the cheapest handheld out there either. But it is the best combination of the two. And I don't know, unless there's a crazy price drop in the next year or two, that you're going to get much better for this performance, for this price. Now, I know that the benchmarks would say that the Snapdragon 865 wasn't a generational upgrade, but this chipset really punches way above its weight class, especially when you factor in turnip drivers and some of the more advanced emulators we're not allowed to talk about anymore. Think about it. For a little bit over $200, you've got everything through the 6th generation playing extremely well, and you're breaking into the 7th generation in some cases, and not like Nintendo DS as a technicality. If you get Rocknix or Batocera on here and Tinker, you could have PS3 up on here, or you could get Winlator on here. You'd be playing Fallout 3 on here. Oh, and by the way, you're doing all of that on this gorgeous AMOLED screen. So yeah, there are issues, right? But they're not anywhere near major enough to keep this thing from being one of the top Android handhelds of 2024. Heck, it might be the top Android handheld of 2024, depending on your preferences. Pack it up, pack it in. Let us begin. Why is this screen so dirty? Up next is my ROG Ally X. Now, I ended up using the Ally X way more than I thought I would. From the moment it showed up, it established itself as my on-the-go x86 device. My Steam Deck is basically a shelf queen at this point, and my poor One X Player 2 Pro has been relegated as an editing rig, which it does well, but this is my portable x86 device of the year, and I didn't think that it was gonna be that way, right? I got it, I said, oh, it'll be pretty good, but I don't know, just a combination of everything this thing does, I really, really liked it, and that's why, for me at least, it's my x86 of the year. Featuring the AMD Ryzen Z1 with improved ergonomics, twice the battery, twice the RAM, fancy cool cooling pipes, and all sorts of other improvements over the original Ally, the Ally X can handle pretty much anything I can throw at it, while still managing to sip battery. At least compared to other Windows handhelds. And it's not just all PC stuff either. The ROG Ally X has enough power to play pretty much every emulator you can think of, at high resolution, at less than max power, so you could play like 1080p PS3 games at 17 watts, and have enough juice in the tank to play your games all afternoon without looking for a plug. Throw in Armory Crate as your built-in front end, and the fact that if you're next to an outlet, you can go into turbo mode and push out 30 watts to play super demanding games, or just bump up the resolution of your other games. Just a super cool Windows handheld all around. And I know Stubbs is going to try to gaslight you about the MSI Claw, and the new one does look pretty cool, I will give him that, but the ROG Ally X, for me at least, was just all-around dominant x86 handheld of the year. Next, we're going with the 34XX. Recency bias, you idiot! That's what everyone's probably saying at home. And you're not wrong, but you're kind of wrong. Let me explain. If you don't have any nostalgia for the original Game Boy Advance, then yeah, it's recency bias. Yeah, you're not going to want this. But if you do have nostalgia for the Game Boy Advance, this is a Game Boy Advance. It's a Game Boy Advance for 2024. I would be okay with just loading this just with Game Boy Advance games, setting it up exclusively to play the Game Boy Advance games, and calling it a day. Because for $70, which, think back, that's how much games cost, right? That's how much console games used to cost. That's how much AAA games cost now. For 70 bucks-ish, you could conceivably have something that is pixel perfect as far as the screen, but also like pretty much pixel perfect as far as the same exact size and ratio and everything. For 70 bucks, you have a modern Game Boy Advance, play every Game Boy Advance ever, you got retro achievements, you got Wi-Fi, you got all the other stuff, and oh, by the way, custom firmware is coming. And oh, by the way, since it's the same size as the original Game Boy Advance, all your old accessories will fit in it. Not like the worm light, but like, you know, cases. All around, I really, really love this. But I understand you are not a Game Boy Advance person. You didn't have one of these in 2001 going forward. Then I get it. You're not like crazy about the aesthetic. You don't care about the form factor. You might start to notice the very real problems with the small D-pad or the fact that these triggers are in a weird spot. But I tell you what, if you have any nostalgia for the Game Boy Advance, this is the most one-to-one duplicate copy. I'm at the point now where I'm pretty sure they just found some aftermarket shells and molded this after those. But it is such an exact replica with all the quality of life improvements you would normally have in 2024. That's why, for me at least, as an admitted Game Boy Advance aficionado, this is one of my handhelds of the year. You're probably going to yell at me about it, but that's fine. Now last for me, and this is going to be controversial as all get out, is the Odin 2 Mini. And I say controversial because there are a ton of people that got the Retroid Pocket 5, or they already have the Odin 2, and the Mini for them is just in a weird intermediate zone. They don't want it anymore. They got it, they liked it at the time, now they're getting rid of it. I got mine when it first came out, and pound for pound, day by day, this is my most used, most played handheld of the entire year. Now, I'm not blind. I know that there are problems with this, and the problems have been expressed in lots of videos and articles and posts and all sorts of stuff. One of the main problems is vignetting, which is when the edge of the screen kind of blends out and blurs into the border. It's cool for Instagram pictures. It's not optimal for a handheld. And it's vignetting, it's not vinaigretting. Don't listen to Stubbs. Don't pour olive oil and vinegar on your electronics. That's not a good idea. It might smell delicious, like a Sicilian salad bar, but you'll ruin them. I know from experience. Let's talk about what the Odin 2 Mini does have going for it. Mainly, it's got the same internals as the Odin 2, a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, so it's going to handle pretty much anything that can exist on Android right now. Now, this power means that with my Odin 2 Mini, I could play throughout the year whatever game of the month game we had going, from NES stuff down to PlayStation 2 games that I had upscaled to fit the 1080p mini LED screen. It also has pretty good battery life. It has really, really good standby. I turned mine off for a week and a half while I was reviewing other stuff, turned it back on, it was at 99%. Good job. I also love the size and the form factor. I never had a Vita, but I bet you I would have loved it if I wasn't already solidly on Team Nintendo with all my freaking DSs at that point. It's small enough to be relatively portable, but it's still powerful and beautiful enough with a 5-inch screen. And even though I like having handles or butt cheeks for ergonomics, My hands never got sore playing the Odin 2 Mini. It's right in my ergonomic wheelhouse. It's perfectly balanced for me. Now, I bought the Odin 2 Mini myself, and I was gonna do a review on it, but I just started using it as my daily driver, and I didn't stop. And I didn't have an Odin 2. Maybe if I had one, and then I got the Mini, I would say, ugh, why would I want to keep a smaller one? But I mean, I bought my Mini, and it was just my go-to handheld from the time it showed up on my porch until right now. I know I'm gonna get a lot of yelling about this, but for me at least, the Odin 2 Mini was the best Android handheld of 2024. And I know RP5's not too far off, but this guy is just special to me. All right, well, that's my top 5. Back to you in the Retro Handheld Studios, Stubbs. Is it off? Yeah. I don't know, Gary. I don't know what he's going to pick. He's probably going to pick that claw. Craw! He's something wrong with him. I don't know why he likes it so much. If he likes it that much, just get a boombox. What? The red light means off, right?
Yeah, alright, Zoo. I see how it is. Well, here are my top 5. And my choices may be equally upsetting, but we'll see. We'll see. The ones I use the most this year, and Zoo makes fun and says, okay, it's the MSI Claw and its beautiful speakers. I mean, come on. Yeah, I love my Steam Deck, and I had a great time with my Ally X this year, but the one that I keep picking up time and again is, that's right, the MSI Claw. It's a beast, it's the Claw. Yeah, it sounds great, it looks great, and as time has gone on, the drivers have gotten better and better, and I can play, I can stream on here, it just feels good. This really has been the one I've used the most out of all my Windows handhelds this year. But if we're saying objectively, yeah, I do think the Ally X probably should be the winner here, but my personal one that I've ended up using more is the Claw, not for its battery life, because it's not the winner there, not for the performance, because it's not the winner there, not even for the speakers, because that's not something that should be that front and center probably when we talk about these handhelds. Nevertheless, it's what's important to me, and it's what I like personally. And so yeah, okay, all right. It's plenty fast with that Intel Core Ultra processor. This has the 155H. You can get in 135H and save a little money. The screen looks fantastic. Has the same screen from the Ally. The D-pad works, but it's not great. Face buttons feel pretty good to me. I like how those feel. And man, yeah, just all of it for me works in the grip, especially in the ergonomics. For these big hands, it just works well. And I have a mechanism kickstand on this one. Check that out. Boop. Universal grip. Pop it right on there. And while I think that it was a miss at its original starting price, where you see it now, I've seen it as low as $300 in some spots. Even with the $400 to $500 trend, absolutely, yes, chef's kiss. Check it to wreck it, as Zoo would say. So I'm gonna go in reverse order from Zoo, so that's my number 5. Going up to number 4, I want to talk to you all about the GKD Bubble. GKD Bubble, so this is an RK3566. We've seen a ton of these just this year even, but the GKD Bubble really stands out amongst the crowd here, not only for the awesome Sega Game Gear vibes you get these really nice satisfying buttons, satisfying clackety buttons here. The shoulders all work well. For me, it's just one of the most comfortable 3566 devices, and so this will play all the way up to Dreamcast, N64, PSP, Nintendo DS, but really where it shines here is for Sega games, as well as other things on here. I'm playing, for instance, Donkey Kong Country 2 for Game of the Month on here and just having a blast. I like the inset sticks. The D-pad is just a joy to use, like Celeste is so enjoyable. And much like Zoo with his AYN Odin 2 Mini, this isn't one that I specifically reviewed this year. I don't have time to review everything, but I have just been playing on it and enjoying it and loving it, really. I mean, it's not perfect, it has downfiring speakers and all that, but it all comes together really well with Plum OS, awesome. And then we talk about the cost of the Bubble, the fact that you can get this for $60, $70 and everything that it does play. There's plenty of alternatives with the same chipset. You can pretty much have it whatever form factor you want, including an upcoming clamshell from Miu. I don't mean to burst your bubble by telling you that the Bubble is one of my absolute favorites of 2024. Number 3, and this is like my favorite, biggest, baddest, best Android handheld of this year. It was really close with the Odin 2 Mini, and I would say that the Odin 2 Portal really should be considered, but it's not out yet, so we can't talk about it yet. That's going to be a 2025 handheld. But I have to say, of 2024, my favorite beastly Android handheld into the number 3 spot here for me is going to be the Aya Neo Pocket Evo. This thing is absolutely awesome. Ignore the silly glass front and, you know, some of the extravagant things that Io brings you, which is nice enough, but the cost of this is jacked up. I mean, the cost of this, it's crazy. This one is, you know, $640 or so for this retro colorway. But if you get the base model, you're looking at around $390, $400. With that, you're getting a Snapdragon G3X Gen 2, so this is one of the fastest chipsets, a little bit of an overclocked Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, a little bit worse compatibility, so not as many Android games will work right off the bat, but you do get that performance on deck there. But what I love about this is actually streaming on it. So the streaming performance, and there's a Wi-Fi 7 chipset in here. And the sticks, they're just large, comfortable, great to use for first-person shooters. A lot of people don't like the speakers in this, I keep hearing, and they're down firing and they can be a little bit muffled, but they're really full sounding and they feel really good. Playing like shooters on this just feels amazing. D-pad not the best though. Face buttons are a little small. Shoulders are pretty decent. The travel on the L2 and R2 is pretty wild. Like, look how big that travel is. But I don't know, it all just comes together for me as just my favorite Android experience, a beautiful 7-inch AMOLED display, or I guess AMOLED. All right, let's focus. Let's get back here. But yeah, and the matte plastic, it just feels good, and the ergonomics feel so good. The temps stay really nice. The fan works well. It's just a speedy experience, and it plays everything I want. I can sideload my Android games if I have compatibility issues, and I can play whatever emulation I want for any system, and it just works. But again, my favorite here is just using like GeForce Now or Moonlight and enjoying that awesome streaming experience with this beautiful big display. Expensive, but a personal favorite. In number 2, second place. For me, while the Evo is a personal favorite Android handheld, the one that would get used the most because it's the most pocketable and it has that price to performance ratio would be the Retroid Pocket 5. Yes, this GameCube colorway, as Zoo would say, beautiful. Yeah, the Retroid Pocket 5, what can I say? I mean, this was just a huge cultural thing in our niche this year. This thing has been a huge launch. It has a Snapdragon 865. I don't need to cover everything. Zoo already told you all about this. I love it for pretty much all the same reasons he does, but I also have to say that the D-pad especially is just fantastic. The sticks feel great. Yeah, the AMOLED screen is really nice, a little bit smaller, but the face buttons all work well. It just feels good. The ergonomics are nice. It looks very much like the AYN Portal, but the ergo here I like a little bit better on the RP5, and it just, I mean, the whole thing comes together just so well for Android. Another great streaming handheld. Having that 865 means you're going to be using your turnip drivers, you're going to be using all that custom stuff, and you can also emulate pretty much any system on here. You're getting that 3.5 headphone out, and I think this has most of the power of what you're going to need for perhaps if you're a retro gamer. All the retro systems, you know, are just going to play so well in there. If you get the black version, oh, it just, your 4.3 content, it's going to look good. It's all going to blend together. RP5, for so many reasons, objectively has to be the best Android handheld of the year. And that price point, $220 for that, or you can get the RP Mini, which is the same exact experience but meant for 4.3 gaming, a little bit smaller screen, for even less, $190, $200. Both of those handhelds, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Now, I would say the 34XX could be considered, but like Zoo was saying, he was calling me out, saying I didn't have that original GBA shape. I don't have the nostalgia for that. I like that one. It's pretty decent. I like the lanyard on it. That's fun. D-pad, kind of a letdown on it. And I wouldn't put it in my top 5 personally. My number 1 favorite retro handheld, and this wasn't even my highest reviewed H700 to begin with, but once they released the V2 of the Anbernic RG35XX SP, oh man, oh, this thing just, yeah, satisfying snap. I mean, come on, man. It's just one and done. It's ready to go wherever you take it. When you look at this objectively compared to many other handheld options, you would think, okay, it's not going to be the winner. But yet, this is the one I've probably used the most. I've been on a lot of trips, and I've always had the SP because in the end, I'm like, okay, I'm going to travel. Which one can I... What can I actually fit? What's easiest to like pull out really quick and play? Put MoOS on here. Absolutely a beautiful pairing. Turn it on. Open it up, start playing. It's selectivable once you get used to it. It took me a little time with these clicky buttons here, but this second iteration has better buttons, less fatiguing, nicer to play on. This green colorway, yeah, I don't need to go in again to everything you can do with it. Zoo covered it so well, but him and I agree on the top 2 spots. SP for number 1 and RP5 for number 2, and then we kind of obviously branch off into other personal favorites. But I think the SP is just, it's not a 3:2 aspect ratio, so it's not perfect for Game Boy Advance, but with the overlays built in, it kind of is. So 4.3 meaning it is so much more comprehensive in what it can play. It sounds good, it looks good, it plays well, and it's always with me. This is my companion, my most played number 1 handheld of 2024. Kind of a surprise. I really thought that I'd be doing more things with my other H700 devices from Anbernic, because I really thought that I'd be giving it to the RG Cube XX with its 1x1 screen. It is really comfortable. This is the best, I think, version of a 1x1 screen. And the new kid on the block, I still haven't made a video on this either. I was waiting to get one of those fun colorways. I have a red one on the way, so let's talk about it soon. So this one is not out of the running, but the Trim UI brick absolutely should get an honorable mention in the meantime. It's still very early days for firmware and what it can do. There's too many handhelds I want to talk to you all about. All right, let's wrap up. Well, what did you think of all of these handhelds that Zoo and I came together on? We would say this is our top 10, but it's really we have 2 the same, right? So we're the top 8? Nevertheless, what are your favorite handhelds that came out this year? Let us know, let us have it. I know you didn't see maybe your favorite handheld, what you thought, oh, that one should have definitely been. And well, you may be right, and let us know why. But until the next time, Zoo and I both want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay in the know for all of your favorite retro handhelds. Also, of course, a special thanks again to all of you out there and our Patreon members, YouTube subscribers, Discord Premium. You all make everything here possible for us. Perks with us start for as little as $3 a month. Join us in our Discord to chat and play games. Join us all on the podcast. Until the next time, this has been Stubbs and Zoo saying, take care of those handhelds and each other. Bye. Should we tell them that you actually flew out here for this? Yeah, you can take the couch. No, I don't have a place for Gary to stay. Well, tell him to buy his own food. Okay, he can stay in the attic. All right. Anyways, I gotta go.
All right, let's just do a crazy outro on the fly, completely unhinged. And it's not just PC. And I really like. No. No, I don't like that. Got to rewrite that. I'll rewrite it in my brain. So yeah, there are no. Yeah, Gary, I don't know if he's gonna be able to edit this. I think he's dropped off. You know, I was talking with Russ and Tech Dweeb about going solo. No. What kind of mean thing could I say that's not really mean? I don't want to put a lot of pressure on your plate, stubborn pixel there, but you got to make it work. We got to make people believe. All right. Oh, boy. Let's get the ROG Ally. Boy, I hope this footage is working out. The B-roll footage will be me playing You understand, future Stubbs? I see you nodding.